Aston Martin finally hit the track in Catalonia in their highly anticipated Aston Martin AMR 26, designed of course by Adrian Newey. Better late than never, right? Thing is though, this has all been a bit weird, unusual, suboptimal perhaps. Like how Aston got the car from Silverstone to Spain in a very unusual plane, to then almost immediately cause a red flag. There's a lot to get into here. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. Okay, so rumours very early on were that Aston Martin were going to struggle to get the full 3 days of allocation time that they could have in this test. For example, Mercedes have been and done their 3 with over 500 laps on the board. Insane, very, very ominous. They never wrote it off entirely like Williams did, but they were pretty quiet on their socials, keeping their cards close to their chest before they knew more about how much of this running they were actually going to be able to realistically get. Then on Monday, first day of this test, they dropped a pretty concise statement on their socials. The AMR 26 will be in Barcelona later this week for its shakedown. Our intention is to run Thursday and Friday. Intention is the key word here. That's the plan, but no guarantees, in the same way that Williams planned to be in Barcelona, but things changed and they couldn't. So it was kind of up in the air whether we'd see them at all. So then the test begun. We didn't hear anything more from Aston Martin for the rest of Monday, for Tuesday or Wednesday, apart from some pictures of some tools, which very nice, I suppose. Shout out to the mechanics who are working overtime at the moment. Now, things might have been quiet from an official capacity. However, Wednesday was the day where news started to come out. And a massive shout out to aviation photographer Sammy Gould, who posted images on Facebook of this. A big old box branded Aston Martin on the side at Birmingham Airport, which is about an hour's drive from Silverstone up the M40, being loaded onto this, a private chartered flight, destination Girona, Spain, a 54-year-old Antonov AN-12BP, a turboprop plane designed in the Soviet Union, with its first ever prototype being all the way back in 1957. F1 World Champion that year? Juan Manuel Fangio. An F1 World Champion 54 years ago when this specific plane was built, Emerson Fittipaldi. Now maybe it's just me, but I think that's pretty cool. A brand new cellophane yet to be wrapped off, Adrian Newey designed Batmobile being loaded into an old Soviet military plane, tight on time to make it to a test. I don't know, man, that's a vibe. And according to Flight Radar, the initial scheduled flight departure time was 10 AM, but they didn't end up leaving till about 1:30, meaning it didn't arrive into Girona Airport until about 4:15 PM local time. And of course, there were fans on the ground videoing, recording it coming in. The Flight Radar had many thousands of people watching it, which is just hilarious. F1 fans are honestly a different breed. Now, Girona Airport is about a 40-minute drive from the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, so it wasn't long until we saw images of a huge DHL lorry arriving into the track with the car inside to meet up with the rest of the Aston Martin team who had already set up. So that's it. It's Wednesday evening. The car has arrived, but it's very different from getting the car there to getting it ready, prepped to go out on track. You have to bear in mind as well, this is a brand new car. The track operations team have to wrap their heads around, and they have to pull an all-nighter to get it done and ready. Lance Stroll's #1 mechanic Harry Rush posted this after Aston Martin managed to get the car out on Thursday on his Instagram story. Couldn't be more proud of the guys and girls that worked relentlessly today, throughout the night and back at the factory to make this happen today. Thank you all. So yes, the car did get out on Thursday, day 4, but it took way longer than we'd have hoped, because as the morning session began, no sign of the Aston. As the morning session ended, no sign of the Aston. As the afternoon session started, no sign of the Aston. The lack of any kind of news coming out had me worried. I was refreshing Twitter semi-regularly because I was super interested to see what this car would actually look like, and I thought we weren't going to at all. But fortunately, that was not the case. Around 5 PM local time, we finally got images of the Aston Martin AMR 26 with Lance Stroll at the wheel leave the garage. He did one sight a lap, came back into the pits, then went back out again. Finally, they could get some meaningful, proper... He did 4 laps, then broke down. I'm not joking, they must have been gutted to see Lance Stroll's car pull over on the side. We don't know what the issue was. Was it a failure or was it precautionary? I like to think the latter. I hope the latter, and fingers crossed today they can get a full day of running. So far so good at the time of recording anyway. I mean, imagine if today, Friday, is a bad day of running for Alonso at the wheel today. Like, my goodness, that would be such a absolute stinker, right? That would make Williams' decision not to even bother coming at all even more vindicated, I guess, because what a waste of resource and budget and, you know, cost cap that would have been. But again, so far so good. The car is out running. It looks really cool. Like, you can see Adrian's been hyper aggressive with the design here. It is all blacked out because they haven't released a livery, not even a testing livery yet. It's got the old horns, it's got loads of rake, it's got some wild side pods, and what suspiciously looks like a blown diffuser. And of course, with Fernando Alonso at the wheel, you know that Soy Motor are getting all of the images, all of the leaks, because they seem to be the only publication who are not getting pushed away, which is interesting. And look, that's kind of it really. I think all eyes on Honda now, because you've got to expect that the aerodynamic side of this car will deliver. And don't get me wrong, they've got the pedigree, right? They produced an incredible engine over the last, 2 regulation cycles. But it is also very important to remember that a lot of Honda personnel stayed within the Red Bull family and now work for Red Bull powertrains. Honda have had to do a degree of a rebuild themselves in order to get this 2026 engine project running. Masahashi Yamamoto, for example, worked as a senior engineer at Honda for years, but when Honda announced they were going to be departing F1, Yamamoto quickly decided, right, I want to be in F1 still, and in early 2022 revealed he'd be joining Red Bull powertrains as a consultant. In fact, I found an F1 article on this. Yamamoto will focus on comms with the staff working on the engine, many of which were Honda personnel who have moved to Red Bull's new power unit division. So it is a bit of an uphill battle for Honda, but Fernando Alonso, more than anyone else, I think, will be desperate for Honda to deliver, because surely it is now or never for him to be able to keep the sharpness that he still has to fight with all these young guns now who have so much experience as well. He doesn't have to worry about his teammate, but he needs to know that that car is at least one of the top 2 and there's not a big gap for him to have a realistic shot at his 3rd F1 World Championship, which is entirely the reason he's here. This is what he's been banking on, really the 26 regs ever since he left Alpine. As for Lance, look, I mean, he's got a lot to prove. As a driver of his experience at his age should be a much more rounded F1 driver than he is. He has skill, he has ability, he has talent, of course he does, but we don't see it often enough. And if this is a top car in 2026, that's going to be highlighted more than ever. And as for Aston Martin's leadership team, obviously Andy Cowell has moved over to the engine side away from the team principal role, which on paper feels like the right choice. Engines are his wheelhouse. He was responsible for much of Mercedes' success in the Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg domination era. As for Adrian Newey as team principal, that's a less obvious choice, because you would hope that he's focusing on the technical stuff, but then not all of these roles are made equally. Every single F1 team has a slightly different leadership structure, and fingers crossed, he's been in the game long enough that he should have a pretty good idea of what will work and what probably won't. This shakedown as a whole has been unusual. It's been interesting. It's a shame I've not been able to stick it on the telly in the background during the day, but that's what Bahrain's for, I suppose. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff down below. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.